He had his staff look into
Why
certain
did
clauses
did
within
he
the Constitution.
utilize the Constitution to break through the window? There are no clauses in the Constitution that allow him to do what he did on January 6th.
He didn't break through a window. Somebody got shot in the face. Somebody got pewed in the face when they did that and lost their pulse.
At one of the windows.
That's what happens to protesters. Nobody cares about that.
Well,
Nobody
it's
cares
not.
about
No, it's not protesting. It's not protesting. It's that she tried to get two representatives. She tried to break the
that.
last line of defense there.
Somebody that's going through a
So he attempted to overthrow the United States government. He attempted to overthrow the United States government. Cosmo, what's going on? What is your debate?
What is the debate? You want to talk about what's on your screen? It says MAGA is a fascist movement,
Yeah,
or something
that was
else.
a
You want
lot
to talk
higher
about?
pitch than I thought it was going to be.
You want to talk about military stuff, racism, what?
I mean, we could talk about MAGA being a fascist movement.
All right. So in the United States, right, fundamentally, we don't allow fascists to lead our country.
Well, we did.
No, we didn't. I think a lot of people don't understand presidential immunities and the power of the president.
Is
Okay?
this like a.
I think that's the issue.
Okay. What does that have to do with fascism?
Because leadership requires authority. You have to have some sort of semblance, some sort of authority when you're running a country, the most powerful country in the world, right? You can't just be someone that has no authority. You
Cool.
gotta have authority.
You
What
can have authority without being fascist.
you could, and that's what I'm saying. It's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying Trump is exactly that. He has the authority. He has the presidential immunity because he's the president of the most powerful country in the world, and he exercises his rights.
What do you think fascism is?
Authoritarianism.
What do you think fascism is? Well, it's not just authoritarianism.
Authoritarian. Well, I think that
But
has a lot to do
he
with
is
it.
an
So,
authoritarian, yeah.
yeah, he has to be. Anybody, any billionaire, any leader, any president has to be.
No,
You
an
can't be
authoritarian is not a leader. An authoritarian is not. No, an authoritarian
quality.
has tenets, or at least things that they do, undermining the
It's a
rule of
quality.
law,
You got to have
undermining
those qualities, those
law and order,
attributes
undermining.
as a leader. Like as a billionaire, for an example, you can't be a billionaire being like a jellyfish kind of dude.
Sure, whatever. But that doesn't mean that he's not fascist. Fascism is not
We
just
got you cutting out.
authoritarianism. Fascism is an
The
ideological
audio.
belief rooted, not on my end. Fascism is far right,
It was just cutting out. Yeah, belief.
fanatical ultranationalism.
Yeah, so if it's a
What?
belief, right? It's a belief system, right? It's not
Well, I wouldn't say
predicated off of
it's a
facts if it's a core
reactionary
belief.
ideological. It's a reactionary ideology
But what is he
rooted
doing?
in
What is Trump
ultra
doing?
conservative beliefs.
You don't think there's an overuse of the word fascism to describe or characterize
I do
Trump?
think that it has been used pretty loosely. I do think that it has been used pretty loosely as a pejorative across all political spectrums for the last 80 or 90 years. However, in this situation, it is apt. Donald
Hmm.
Trump is a fascist for numerous different reasons.
What reason?
One, tried to overthrow the United States government. Oh,
You
I can get to
mean
that, yeah. One, tried to overthrow
back
the
up,
United
back
States
up,
government.
back up 1 second on that one, right?
What?
That's a complicated one. What he did was he utilized the
It's really not.
Constitution. That's what he did. He had his staff look into
Why
certain
did,
clauses within
did
the
he
Constitution.
utilize the Constitution to break through the window? There are no clauses in the Constitution that allow him to do what he did on January 6th.
He didn't break through a window. Somebody got shot in the face. Somebody got pewed in the face when they did that and lost their pulse.
At one of the windows.
Mm-hmm. That's not cool, right? That's what happens to protesters. Nobody cares about that. Nobody
Well, it's
cared.
not. No, it's not protesting. It's not protesting. It's that she tried to get to representatives. She tried to break
How,
the last line of defense there.
you don't know that. You don't know that. Somebody that's going through what?
So he attempted to overthrow the United States government. Let me get through some of these. He attempted to overthrow the United States government. He attempted to overthrow an election in which he lost, was unable to provide any evidence. So those are two of the things. One, he advocates for violence on a regular basis, direct action, direct fascist action. He believes in pretty much all of the tenets of fascism by any scholar. So things like traditionalist beliefs, the patriarchal family. He thinks that cities are run down, disgusting, and dirty, despite the fact that he lived one forever, and that the rural America, that's where the heartland is.
He's right. He's right.
There's things like there's obsession with national security, that he might be a fascist too. There's obsession with national security. There's obsession with migrants or a scapegoat group, which, by the way, are frequently viewed as both superhumanly strong and subhumanly weak. There's a whole host of tenets that you can look into that will verify what I'm saying. But yes, fascism is far-right fanatical ultranationalism characterized by ultra-conservative and traditionalist beliefs. He is a Mussolini,
All the
if
categories
anyone.
that you mentioned and subcategories, all of them apply to all presidents. You just characterize them as like a hybrid.
What applies to what applies? So when did Obama go ahead and attack cities as being these disgusting evil
In his
places?
role, in his role as a
When did
president,
Obama only advocate for the patriarch? Right. When are these people only advocating for the patriarchy or the patriarchal family, the upholding of the patriarchy? Like
have you
when are these?
ever
What has Barack Obama done?
have you ever seen Trump's family, his sons and his daughter and his kids? Have you ever watched them? Have you ever met them or seen them? You just in general, just on media. Do you view those people as like bunch of losers and idiots? That's his family. You talk about he doesn't have an
His
ideology.
which family members?
His daughters, his sons, his daughters, right? They're all successful people.
I don't think off his back.
Well,
And really their
you could still
their
be,
grandfather's back.
you could still destroy that. You know what I'm saying? You know, like not everybody is perfect, but he's raised many kids to be very successful. Off his back or not, it's still a picture of success. He kept it together. I mean, somehow he kept it together. Those kids are very successful kids. They're highly educated. They're
What's
polished.
your point? What
Well,
does that
you
have to do with him? The one tenet of fascism that's present in this. Hold on. The one tenet of fascism that's present in this is what's called palingenetic ultranationalism, which means national rebirth, make America great again, to return to an idealized version of America. Never existed, but people can go, well, it's bad now. It used to be good. Go back to that, and it follows extreme conservative and traditionalist beliefs.
I
I
think
don't know
it's just a contrarian
what's not
view.
clicking about him.
What's not
Contrarian
clicking?
what?
Being negative, being a fascist. You're talking about MAGA. You're talking about everything he stands for. Before MAGA is what you characterize it right now today, it was Make America Great Again, right? The acronym, Make America Great Again, right? Before it is what it is now in your view, it was just MAGA, Make America Great Again. That was the message that he sent. People liked it. People liked it. They still like it.
I know
77
that's a
million people voted.
fascist plea to the national. That's a fascist plea to the national rebirth. Yeah, an
Nobody,
idealized version of. Watch, I'll prove it to you. What time
nobody
do they
would
want to return
disagree.
to?
No, nobody would disagree with Make America
We're really
Great.
quick. What time do they want to? What time do they want to return to?
That's an individual's response. It applies to each individual. That's the beauty of it,
What time do they want to? What time do they? I know. Yes, I know. Yeah,
right?
that's why. That's the fascist
One
plea.
answer. There's no
We're
one.
going to return to a time of national greatness. Hold on. I know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're going to return to a time of national greatness that we used to have, that we no longer have. They do not believe in the economic policies brought forth during the baby boom. They do not believe, and then when you bring up you want to go back to this time, they don't want the social aspects of those, or at least some of them don't. I'm assuming they do, and that's the plea. But it's ambiguous. It's vague. Anybody can take anything that they want out of it, but it is inherently a fascist plea, the plea to national rebirth.
I think it's
We've become not great. Let's return to a time of national greatment. And it usually coincides with economic turmoil.
it does. Yeah, it does. Everything is based upon economics for sure. You're right about that. I think when people are making money, they complain less. Right? Everybody's happier because they can afford things. They can go out to dinner. They can go on dates. They can spend money, buy gifts, whatever, go on vacations. That is true. Economics is everything. Absolutely, I agree with that. Even with TikTok and influencers, the more money these influencers make, and the longer TikTok stays intact for them, the happier they are. Even if their messages are twisted, for half the United
What do you
States.
think? So really quick, what do you can I it's like I'm debating myself at this point. Can you tell me what fascism is?
Yeah, it's like an authoritarianism regime.
It's not just authoritarianism, it's an ideology that's predicated on a national rebirth and ultra traditionalist ideas.
I think that's just an overkill. You know what I'm saying? That's just too deep. In the United
No,
States, they
that's not too
now.
deep. This is the standard. This is the standard concise across all academic scholars in the field on this. National rebirth. In
He
fact,
doesn't.
Roger Griffin stated that you cannot have. He stated that you cannot have fascism without national rebirth. You cannot have
Didn't
fascism
didn't
without the fascist plea.
didn't you hear what Trump said the other day? He said, "If I was a fascist, he said I wouldn't have to go through all the BS that I go through. I'd get things passed. If I was a king, if I was a fascist, I'd be able to sign things in 5 seconds and not even sign things and just push it through." That's not the case. He has lots of
No,
controls
that's not
and
true.
lots of restraints.
That's not true.
Yeah, that's
That's
how
not
I.
true. That's a dictator. That's not a fascist.
Well, there's an
That's
analogy
not
to
a
it.
dictator. That's not a fascist. That's a dictator.
There's those are the terms, the characterizations that a lot of you guys come across, non MAGA, and it's not even MAGA. It's like just because someone is Republican doesn't necessarily mean they're your definition of MAGA, right? I mean,
I have no
listen
idea
to
what
what
you're
Trump.
arguing at this point. What you're telling me that you're telling me that authoritarianism is fascism, which it's not. Stalin is not a fascist. He's an authoritarian.
You're telling me that
Bashar al-Assad's an
is not
authoritarian. He
authoritarianism.
was not a fascist.
It is. It is what I
No,
said. It.
fascism is not authoritarianism. No, it's
It
not.
is. It's a component of
Fascism
it.
has authoritarian aspects. Fascism does not require authoritarianism.
Right. So how is Trump a
It
fascist?
coincides pretty frequently.
What does he do that
I've
makes him a fascist?
explained this.
What does he do? What does he do that makes him a fascist?
I told you.
He
How many
poses
more times do I
he
have to tell
arrests.
you?
He sends ICE out. He sends ICE out. Is that what he does? He authorizes law enforcement.
That would be so. Here's
Law
so no. He
enforcement.
actually violates the law in doing this stuff and gets shot down in court.
Right. Let's talk about that.
That's the authoritarian challenge.
Talk
So
about
so if you're saying that it's authoritarianism is fascism, which it's not, then he would be a fascist through authoritarianism
Well, let's
because he
talk
is
about.
constantly challenging the
Right.
rule of law and institutions, constantly challenging rule of law and institutions, and losing.
What? Not. Oh, he's not. He's not losing. I would say he's over 50-50. He's not losing. What are you talking about? There's a lot of cases that he wins, but on that
No,
score, on the
he's
ICE
lost like
score,
eighty
as far as
percent of cases. He's lost. I don't. I'm just
you
trying to
said
get
of
to the
what
root
is,
of it, and you're bouncing around to a lot of stuff.
I'm jumping to immigration. I'm
Is he a
trying to get on
fascist
the.
or not? Can you tell me what fascism? I don't
Well,
want to get on
my
immigration.
definition
Can
of
you
it,
tell me what fascism? You said a fascism is authoritarianism, right?
I think that's a component of it. Yes, the
You
main
said it's
component and main cog to it.
what else?
That's it. To me, that's it. That's basically
Okay,
the
which
gist of
he.
it.
So we can agree that. Okay, so we can agree that he's an authoritarian then.
Yes,
He
absolutely.
threatens violence against people that protest. Okay, so then he would be a fascist.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't do that. He threatens violence against people that violently protest. He
He is
threatens
an
them with war.
authoritarian, though. We already agreed to that, correct?
Yes, yes,
He is an
absolutely.
authoritarian. We already agreed to that, correct? Cool. So if that's your
Correct.
only characterization of a fascist, he qualifies as a fascist.
A component and attribute of a fascist has to have some authoritarianism qualities. You got to have some of those attributes. A leader, just like a leader, a good leader.
So
Let's
he's
say,
a
like, who do you respect? You
so
respect
he's a fascist.
you
So
respect Joe
now
Biden, right?
so now you're saying that fascism is okay.
No, I didn't say that. What I said to you is any leader, including Joe Biden, has to have some leadership qualities. To be a president, you got to have leadership.
What is authoritarianism?
You don't think
What
Joe
is
Biden
authoritarianism?
decided authoritarianism when he hired,
Can you not hear
you
me?
know, 80%, 90% black female judges? You don't think that was authoritarianism?
No.
You don't think that was
No.
fascism?
What the fuck? What do you think authoritarianism is?
If
No.
I hired all,
No, because he
if I
hired
hired
people?
all Rainbow, if I hired a staff of Rainbow, if 90% of my staff is Rainbow, would I be considered a fascist?
No. What is authoritarianism?
I wouldn't. What would I be considered if 90% of my staff that I hired was Rainbow?
Progressive. What do you call authoritarianism? What is their definition of that?
I would be progressive. I would be progressive. Okay, that's interesting. What if 90% of my staff hired, and 90% of the judges I hired were female African Americans? What if
That's not authoritarian.
what if
That
eighty
is
six
just
percent
you
of
hiring preferred people.
what if
And by the
preferred
way, if
people?
Donald Trump hiring billionaire, yeah, whoever you prefer to be in that position, Donald Trump hired a bunch of billionaires. Does that make him a fascist for it?
At
No. Does that make
best,
him an authoritarian for it? No.
at best, 10 billionaires at best, as opposed to
No, like
100
half of his administration or no, half of his administration are billionaires.
at 10 at best billionaires. 10 at best. The rest of them are not.
Who cares?
Right? Most of them are
There's
not.
like half of his
Tulsi's not a billionaire.
administration. Do you have a
Tulsi's not
point
a
here? I'm
billionaire.
getting a headache.
Yeah, you have my points. You just don't like the points. You just don't
No,
like the
because I
points.
asked you to define authoritarianism and you're completely ignoring it.
It's the practice of extreme authority,
No.
right? Control and
No,
authority.
what the fuck does that even mean? What does
I don't
that
know.
even mean?
Obvious, self-explanatory.
No, it's not. Why I'm
Okay.
asking.
Every time I explain something to you and you disagree with the definition, you say it makes no sense. I don't know if you don't interpret
You
things
didn't give me a
properly.
definition. You said it's
I
this,
just
but it's self-explanatory.
first
Self-explanatory. It's
first you
not
went to
self-explanatory.
let me just say what
Do you have a definition of fascism?
now you go into fascism, then you go to I talk about authoritarianism, then you ask me for the definition of that, then you go back.
All right. All right, I tried.